Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely massive, a blueprint that's honestly kind of mind-boggling. We are looking at the Viksit Gujarat Industrial Policy 2026. Basically, this is the Indian state of Gujarat's audacious step-by-step roadmap to morph into a $3.5 trillion economy by the year 2047. So, how exactly are they going to pull off a goal that big? Let's dive right in and find out.
To really grasp where Gujarat is heading, we've got to look at where they just came from. Picture this. Back in 2002 and 2003, the state's GDP was sitting at about 15.73 billion US dollars. Fast forward to 2024-2025, that number has absolutely exploded to $329.70 billion. We're talking about a more than 20-fold increase in just over 2 decades. That is a triumphant baseline. They aren't starting from scratch here, folks. They're taking an already booming economic engine and strapping a rocket to it.
To actually hit that $3.5 trillion mark, this policy is built on 6 key pillars. We're going to look at 1. The vision for 2047, 2. Building future-ready infrastructure, 3. Powering a green transition, 4. Driving high-value manufacturing, 5. Fostering innovation and startups, and finally, 6. From jobs to quality lives.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the vision for 2047.
So the core vision here isn't just about getting bigger, it's really about evolving. It's a monumental leap toward that $3.5 trillion goal. Gujarat wants to execute a massive structural shift. They're aiming to move away from those traditional, low-margin industries and transform into a globally competitive powerhouse. We're talking value addition, advanced manufacturing, and getting deeply intertwined with global supply chains. It's all about aligning the state's regional growth with India's broader push for complete self-reliance and technological sovereignty.
Which brings us to Section 2, building future-ready infrastructure.
Look, you literally cannot multiply an economy's size without completely upgrading its physical foundation, right? To move goods on this kind of massive scale, the policy relies heavily on multimodal logistics, all driven by the PM Gati Shakti platform. Think of this like a giant synchronized nervous system. It puts state and national ministries on one unified digital platform so roads, railways, airports, and seaports all talk to each other seamlessly. By stripping away procedural overlaps and using data to plan things out, Gujarat is aiming to slash logistics costs, and lower costs mean they become way more competitive on the global export stage.
To really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this infrastructure, we have to look at the mega projects. 2 massive ones really anchor this whole strategy. First up, the Dalaris Special Investment Region. This place is huge, spread over 920 square kilometers. It's being built as India's very first dedicated semiconductor manufacturing ecosystem, a literal tech city. And second, there's Gift City. This is India's first operational smart city and international financial service center. It's an 886-acre vertical city that is just exploding as a magnet for global banking, capital markets, and fintech. These aren't just your standard industrial parks. They are entirely new economic nerve centers.
Okay, moving on to Section 3, powering a green transition.
Here is the reality check. A modern $3.5 trillion mega economy is going to devour a staggering amount of energy. And today, that power absolutely has to be sustainable. Gujarat is actually already a national frontrunner here. Right now, they boast an impressive 50.38 gigawatts of installed renewable capacity. As you can see, that's heavily dominated by solar at 31 gigawatts, followed by 15.78 gigawatts of wind and 3.6 gigawatts from other sources. They already account for nearly 18% of India's entire renewable capacity. But for 2047, well, this is just the starting line.
Because the policy lays out a super aggressive target, they want to practically double this capacity to 100 gigawatts by 2030. 100 gigawatts! They plan to pull this off through massive integrated mega projects. A perfect example is the Kavda Renewable Energy Park, which is planned to generate around 37 gigawatts all by itself. This guarantees that all these new industries setting up shop in Gujarat will have access to reliable, affordable, and most importantly, clean power that meets global environmental standards.
Next up, Section 4, driving high-value manufacturing.
So we've got the roads, the cities, and the green energy figured out. But what exactly is going to be manufactured here? While Gujarat has traditionally been a powerhouse in sectors like textiles and chemicals, this 2026 policy pivots hard toward the future. They've carved out specific thrust sectors. We're talking semiconductors, the whole green hydrogen ecosystem, space manufacturing, and drones. they're also looking at robotics and electric mobility. This curated list tells you exactly how the state is leapfrogging into highly advanced, tech-heavy domains so they can stop relying on imports and start owning the industries of tomorrow.
Now, to make sure these futuristic sectors actually take off, the government is setting up the SCALE Committee. That stands for the Steering Committee for Advancing Local Value Add and Exports. It's a mouthful, I know, but let's translate that bureaucratic jargon. This is basically a high-level, fast-track task force. Its entire job is to cut through red tape, speed up local manufacturing so they don't have to import as much, and push domestic products onto global shelves. It's all about perfectly aligning the state's industrial engine with the national dream of total self-reliance.
Let's shift gears to Section 5, Fostering Innovation and Startups.
Because, you can't just rely on massive global corporations to do all the innovating. You got to ignite that spark at the grassroots level. This policy recognizes startups as the absolute, vital engines of agility. They're the ones bringing the disruptive thinking you need for a tech-driven economy. They are the potential unicorns of tomorrow. So the state is going all in, heavily incentivizing youth and first-time entrepreneurs to take those big swings by providing some very strategic financial backing.
Let's actually break down the tangible financial mechanics they're using to de-risk the whole startup journey. First, there's a sustenance allowance of up to 30,000 rupees a month for a year, specifically aimed at startups with women co-founders, just to keep the lights on during those tough early days. Second, they're offering seed support of up to 50 lakh rupees for startups making a real societal or tech impact. And third, interest subsidies of up to 9% on term loans. They're literally putting their money where their mouth is to lower the barriers for innovators.
And finally, Section 6, From Jobs to Quality Lives. We've talked about trillions of dollars, gigawatts of green energy, and high-tech manufacturing. But this right here is the emotional core of this explainer. How does all this macro data actually change the day-to-day lives of everyday citizens? Well, at the heart of the 2026 policy is a massive paradigm shift. The old industrial model was just about earning well, creating jobs and bumping up wages. The new paradigm Gujarat is championing is earning well and living well. They realize that you cannot sustain economic dominance if your people don't have a high quality of life. It's a total shift from just creating jobs to making cities incredibly livable, slashing commute times, and guaranteeing social well-being.
And they aren't just talking about living well as some abstract concept, they are building it into physical reality. To boost productivity, and especially to get more women participating in the workforce, this policy mandates accessible workforce housing. We're talking massive financial assistance, like covering 80% of project costs up to 40 crore rupees, just to build modern, secure, working women's hostels and dormitories right inside or next door to industrial hubs. They want to completely obliterate the logistical and safety barriers that stop people from chasing professional success. I think the entire ethos of this policy is summed up perfectly right here. Through the convergence of economic opportunity and quality of life, Gujarat ensures that economic growth is inclusive, people-centric, and sustainable. That is the ultimate realization, right? The idea that a massive trillion-dollar industrial ambition is completely, 100% inseparable from human-centric development. You simply can't have one without the other.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating final thought. As we take a step back and look at this incredible roadmap to 2047, we have to ask, will this dual-focus model, wealth creation paired right alongside livability, become the definitive blueprint for emerging economies all over the world? I mean, if Gujarat succeeds in scaling to $3.5 trillion while simultaneously upgrading the quality of life for millions of people, they might just rewrite the entire textbook on regional economic planning. Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time as we unpack another fascinating topic.